success is pretty much guaranteed for the person found in Capricorn. However, the nature of those achievements speak to the position of selfishness or selflessness that the individual is moving from. If one moves from materialistic and selfish ends, they may very well achieve their personality ambitions and concretize the forms of their worldly life, only to find themselves falling from that summit later down the track. For at some point those forms necessarily become concretized and therefore become prone to getting smashed to the ground. So for the personality expression of Capricorn, an individual may achieve their goals only to find out that it wasn't all that it cracked up to be, and they may find themselves tumbling back down the mountain, landing at the bottom and finding that they have to start again. Capricorn is the sign of the initiate. Jesus Christ was born in Capricorn, 9 months processionally from Virgo, the sign in which the Virgin gestates the Christ, the form. And we can see the spiritual and the inverted materialistic expression of Capricorn most poetically through the Christmas tradition, because Christmas is really a time meant for reflection and giving thanks, spending time with loved ones, gathering together in ceremonial celebration. And yet so much of what Christmas has become in our culture is one of materialistic, rampant desire satiation and very much buying into the consumer culture. So we can see the two edges of Capricorn in that way. The two horns of the goat, and there's a link here between the other horned signs of the zodiac, Aries and Taurus. Though Capricorn is said also to be the sign of the crocodile, and so there's a little mystery here to be thought out. The crocodile lives both in water and on the land, and it represents a very old, dense kind of animalistic, reptilian consciousness. And herein, not that the crocodile itself is evil, but there is the implication of evil found in Capricorn. Saturn rules at the exoteric and esoteric levels, and Saturn represents at this exoteric level karma, limitations, bondage. Of course, the personality-centered Capricornian knows the rules of discipline as well, which makes them able to climb the rocky mountain and achieve their personality goals. And yet it's that destructive element when we achieve the personality ambitions and then it all comes crumbling down, that we hit up against karmic law again. So even though Capricorn gives us this ability to manifest our desires, and it is a earth sign and a sign of concretization, and that's partly the role of Saturn, which is the third ray planet, and ray 3 is in the sign Capricorn, along with rays 1 and 7, 1, 3, 7, so very much a sign of manifestation. And yet on the mutable cross, when we achieve that actualization of the form that we desire, we are faced with the karmic consequences of the pursuit of materialism, and we cannot escape it, hence the tumbling back down. So personality ambition or spiritual ambition, and the capacity to continue on the grind up the mountain. Human beings' interest in Mount Everest is a perfect culmination of this deeper archetypal and metaphysical truth. It is that really, it's the highest, the tallest mountain, that inconquerable summit, and people have died climbing Mount Everest as well. Not everybody makes it. So an interesting symbol there, a sign of spiritual ambition as well, the one who is able to steadfastly, persistently, as the goat does, climb the mountaintop and eventually become the single-pointed unicorn, the fusion of mind and heart, the fusion of the horns into the one-pointed, focused horn of the unicorn. that can pierce the eye and the heart of the beast. Interestingly, Satan and Saturn share a very similar name. So the lower animalistic desires of Capricorn, the beast, pierced by the horn of truth, the unicorn. The esoteric keynote for Capricorn is: lost am I in light supernal, yet on that light I turn my back. So a little hint here, also in reference to Joseph Campbell's monomyth, where he pointed out the way in which the hero, at that point of conquering the adversary, the beast, and achieving this great goal in whatever legend or myth we're talking about, and esoterically considered, achieving the heights of initiation. Here our hero must go back down the mountain and bring in the new forms, spread the good word, and thus he emerges as the world server in Aquarius on the reversed wheel. So Capricorn, when we achieve this level of initiation, becomes that great builder, a very practical, steadfast, focused, persistent builder of the new forms. Saturn is the planet of the third ray, as mentioned, to do with the mental body. So we're talking here about concentration and focus. Saturn is also considered the dweller on the threshold. Again, hint to Satan. And it really represents a lot of these really deeply ingrained, concretized, accumulated forms of the past as well, similar to the moon, but specifically manifesting as really entrenched mental limitations. Once again, we've already talked about this, but the mental purification, the purification of the mental body, has to basically follow the astral purification. So that's the emotional work. And then we get to this point where we can really focus on what are the mental limitations. Saturn has rings around it, right? So this very literal representation of this confinement. And those are the laws of karma right there. We have to break out. We have to face the limitations. All debts must be paid. And hence in Capricorn, on the mutable cross, for the individual here, there is that constant hitting up against karmic consequences when one achieves their personality ambitions, when one has their desires satiated in Capricorn on the mutable cross. But once we overcome Saturnian limitation, then we stand free. Saturn does not follow us at this point, the laws of karma, not having to pay back. We don't have to keep paying retribution for these limitations because we've matured ourselves, we've proved ourselves on the mountaintop, we've been initiated into the higher mysteries, and now we are capable of taking proper responsibility. It's a very Capricornian word, that, of holding a point of light, being the unicorn, and being able to be an adequate world server in Aquarius. Uranus is just outside of Saturn's orbit, right? And so as a seventh ray planet, it is the planet of occultism and is representative of the higher intuition. And so when we break out of the limited mental thought forms, the crystallized mental patterns and those karmic consequences found in the Saturnian influence there, then we have access to that Uranian spirit. Rays 1, 3, and 7, which are rays very dominant upon the cardinal cross, which is what we mount after achieving the third degree and overcoming the mental limitations. And these are very much rays of building. Once we've achieved spiritual initiation, it's no longer the capacity to build from that place of materialistic ambition, but the capacity to anchor in the will of God, the plan, to structure the matter aspect, the form aspect. Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign, so that it can accurately shape and reflect the will of God. Mars is exalted in Capricorn It can demonstrate the capacity to actualize one's desires. We're talking about the anchoring in of the astral body, Mars is a 6th ray planet, into the desires of the personality and have them be actualized in a much more dynamically efficient way. Or, in the case of the person on the fixed cross working with the soul, it would represent the conquering of the lower nature, the conquering of the beast, and bringing the personality under the will of the soul, and therefore makes this particular individual a very dynamic agent of activity when it comes to unfolding the soulful path and the will of God. Jupiter and Neptune are considered to be in fall in Capricorn. So why would this be? They both represent aspects of higher spiritual consciousness at the esoteric level. So Jupiter being a 2nd ray planet's love aspect, Neptune being this hint to the Christ aspect, the devotional aspect. So the implication here is that in Capricorn, which is a sign of concretized desire, these two planets are hidden or veiled or lost, or that the spiritual quality of them at least are lost to the desire nature. And so Neptune kind of expresses through this hidden, distorted astral way, whereas as we saw with Mars, it can exacerbate the personality desires. And so the same thing with Neptune, it can crystallize materialistic values and cover over the spiritual values. And the same thing with Jupiter, really. And Jupiter brings benevolence and the capacity to gravitate and magnify at both levels of manifestation, on the mutable and the fixed cross levels of experience. So in the case of Capricorn, Jupiter just brings more desire of the, more magnetism to the desires of the personality. So in the case of the soulful individual, if they had these placements in Capricorn, then we're talking about a real breaking out of the attachment to the matter aspect having been achieved. And these planets can then be risen back up. And now we've got a beautiful fusion of these love and Christ aspects into a very concrete sign that's able to anchor in and materialize the forms. So there's a great potential for planets in the sign here, these two planets in Capricorn. But certainly from the exoteric point of view, they can struggle a lot, and it can really hint at someone with a lot of personality, ambition and desire. India is a Capricornian personality, and its long history, which is filled with such rich spiritual imagery and all the pilgrimages that happen to India, as well as the real degenerate aspects of India, real gross, perverted forms of materialism and desire, and the bestial animal inversion. Both of these extremes, because of course that duality exists everywhere, right? Materialism versus a soulful expression. But these are very exaggerated in India, given that it's a Capricornian nation. So it's really interesting to contemplate the nature of Capricorn relative to the history of India, if one wants to pursue further research, because yes, it has so much rich spiritual history there, and so many hints at the wisdom of initiation, and many occult hints through all of its different mystery traditions, and just having such an old history of spirituality as well. Yet a lot of this rampant, warped desire expression there too, and chaotic consequences of the pursuit of materialistic, personal desires. The moon's power is considered to be lessened in Capricorn. From the personality perspective, that has a lot to do with a coldness and a loss of personal feeling nature, and that can be a little bit of a similar thing with the moon in Aquarius from an exoteric point of view. But from an esoteric point of view, the form aspect represented by the moon is lessened in the sign Capricorn as the detachment to materiality happens and initiation begins to take place. So there's a beautiful little nod there to the esoteric meaning of Capricorn when we conquer the lower limitations of the concrete world. So in summarizing Capricorn, it is a sign of brilliant potentiality, of strong, concentrated manifesting ability, and it is one where we undergo tests of materialism at various stages. For the developed individual, we're talking about initiation itself. We're talking about the ability to actualize the will and the plan. Strong Capricornian soul-centered individuals may very well find themselves in positions of government and executive levels of authority, having earned the responsibility to be in such positions that wield power in such a way and are able to lead really dynamic changes that have to do with the structuring of the society and the culture. When we think about Capricorn and its association with business and government, all of these things come into that, the breaking out of the shadow Saturnian exoteric forces that we see so many examples of with poor uses of power and government and the materialistic ends of selfish, desire-motivated people. But the overcoming of those forms and the breaking out of them and the bringing new forms in, the unicorn's horn once again penetrating and piercing the heart and mind of the beast. So this is the higher expression of Saturn as that refined mental body. And on the point of heart and mind, Venus is in fact the hierarchical ruler of this sign. So bringing that fusion there, that alchemical fusion of heart and mind, which has so much to do with Venus and of course connects Capricorn to the sign Gemini, of which Venus is the esoteric ruler, and having a lot to do with heart and mind there, again, the fusing aspect. So there's so much more that could be said about Capricorn. Interestingly, while filming this video, I've experienced a lot of interferences and limitations, and I'm coming up against a lot of concrete, mental, unpleasant, crystallized thought forms as I've been trying to film this. So naturally, on the day that I attempt to film a video on Capricorn. So I have no idea actually if this was any good or not, but I think we get to the bottom line essence of it anyway for our purposes here for the beginner. Okay, so I guess I'll leave it there, and I will see you in the next one.